been a tough 6 months. I mean, you're talking about, slowdown after the World Cup. And of course, during that period, it seems a lot of people were focusing on those World Cup projects. They came to an end and other externalities came to the fore as well. But you do say that things are going to get better in the second half of the year. And of course, you posted that loss, that 90% loss in the headline earnings per share number, but you are expecting a profit in the second half of this year.
That's right, yeah. Not 90% loss, but 90% down.
Headline earnings per share, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, look, the first 6 months have been tough. I was watching your monitor earlier on, and you were talking to one person talking about the rain. You know, the first 3 months of our trading year for this year were very, very wet. They were 2.5 times wetter than they normally are. And that contract specific had a big impact, along with 2010. They stopped 2 of our flagship contracts for the 6 weeks that the World Cup was on, and obviously you lose that revenue. We haven't lost it forever, it's been deferred. To come
when do you expect to start those projects again?
They have started again now, yeah. It was just for the 6 weeks over World Cup.
Well, looking at your order book, most analysts saying looking relatively healthy. You're sitting at around 1 billion rand going forward, so things are looking better. Are all these projects on track?
We've got one problem with our BG3 contract, which is a pipeline contract for Rand Water. That's been very, very slow to start. There's some issues there with landowners, moving services, some blasting requirements that have to be done and finalized, but we think we should be putting pipe in the ground from next week, and we'll be in full production by sort of early next year, we think.
Looking at your geotechnical division of the company, we know that it's a massive contributor to the overall business. Also, just keeping in mind that we did see, the sizing down of this division. When do you start? When are you expecting things to come to the fore? I suppose we also need to focus on the fact that less building projects have been signed off by government, which of course is directly impacting this division.
Yeah, I would see that there'll be a little bit more contraction in that particular division before it starts coming up. We're really waiting for the private sector to come back into that market. Of course, that disappeared completely at the beginning of 2008 and hasn't really come back again yet. So there will be some more contraction there, we think.
Taking a look at the Sub-Saharan Africa divisions as well, also no respite there given the fact that we also saw project cancellations and delays in that region. And we keep talking about how robust the construction industry is in Sub-Saharan Africa. Surely there needs to be a turnaround relatively soon.
We think so. Angola, where we've got quite a lot of work on the geotechnical side in Luanda, they've had their own liquidity problems there. They've also been part of the recession. But that does seem as if it's turning around. There are more prospects coming out there now. There have been some payment problems there. We've been a little bit stop-start in this first 6 months, but we see that improving going forward as well.
Well, just looking at payment problems, have you also had these problems coming to the surface in South Africa with government?
We're not as exposed as some of the other contractors that are doing specifically housing and that. But yeah, we've got about 20 million, which is stretched.
And of course,
past the 120 days now.
And you've had to go to the market to raise more capital because of this?
We haven't gone to the market yet, no.
Well, you borrowed a further 33 million.
Oh, sorry,
rand.
that was a re-advance on debt that we had paid off, yeah. So we took that 33 million out.
Bernie, just looking at the civils side of things, because we also saw quite a deep contraction coming through on that front, but things looking slightly better as well. I mean, you were talking about the roads projects that are coming to the fore, so that should help prop up the numbers going forward.
There's quite a lot of activity on that side, and I think SANRAL's brief, if it hasn't been extended yet, will be extended, to cover some of the provincial roads and that as well. So we're looking at, that market is going to bring some relief. And also in the pipeline market, we're very bullish about that side, because water is a strategic issue in South Africa. And we're expecting, some of the TCTA contracts and other water projects to come out, for the second half of this year and going into next year as well.
So where do you expect the biggest growth to come through? We know that energy is going to be a key focus. You're talking about the water sector as well and roads in South Africa.
Yeah, civils and pipelines will outstrip the geotechnical division going forward.
You're talking about competition in the market becoming relatively rife, and you're talking about the squeezing of margins. And it seems that many construction companies, just to try and ensure that they do keep a hold of their employers, the employees, that they have been in fact doing business with a zero margin. Have you been embarking on this strategy?
Not at all. In fact, we think some of the guys might be doing it at below zero margin. But there's been some suicidal prices out there from our perspective. We've come in with what we regard as being really competitive bids. And on 200 million, somebody can be 30, 40 million rand less than us. very difficult to compete under those conditions.
Well, just taking a look at the tendering process and so forth, we know that government has been talking about 846 billion rand that is going to be spent over a certain amount of years, over the next 5 years. Many construction companies are waiting for these projects to come through in the pipelines to start coming to the fore. When do you expect this to happen? And obviously, many companies are going to try and get a piece of the pie. The question is, who's going to be offering the better margins? And as you just alluded to, it seems that some guys are going out there at below zero.
Look, everybody's saying that it's got to happen now. I mean, they've got to roll it out. There's got to be some movement now. There was this general, I heard you alluded to it earlier on, there's been this sort of lassitude after the World Cup. It's just everybody's gone to sleep and haven't woken up yet. And it really has to kick off now. Otherwise, it's going to be some serious problems for some of the bigger companies.
It's interesting, Fitch Ratings came out and said that the construction industry in South Africa is only going to really start significantly improving in 2012, with some improvement coming through in 2011. You're already talking about things getting better in the second half of this year. What are you expecting for the first half of 2011?
Well, we believe that a lot of the things that happened with us were very site-specific and were one-off occurrences, and they just happened to snowball and be on top of each other. So we believe we're going to come out of that sort of situation, even coming into the second half of this year. So our first half of 2011, we're thinking is going to be a lot
Are you going to
better.
be focusing predominantly on the sub-Saharan African region, or is it, a big focus is going to be in South Africa?
I think South Africa first and foremost, or just immediately over our immediate borders. It's a lot easier to work in places like Mozambique, Botswana, than it is to work in Angola or DRC, those areas. So if there's another country in between, it makes it 4 times as difficult.